Hello, dear ones. We are outside today. The sun is blazing open. The sun has returned. It has started to heat up a little bit again. We've kind of gone through a little bit of a cold streak, which is kind of natural as we've kind of opened up to this next retreat, renewal retreat. There's a renewal of the retreat and the renewal of the renewal as we kind of bring more people are starting to come and feel connected to the teaching as the teaching is kind of ready to start spreading its wings. So we're like leaving for Norway now tomorrow. So then it felt like perfect to do it here today. And today we're kind of, every time we talk about different subjects, sometimes it's more personal, sometimes it's more philosophical, sometimes there's different of words in the world that has kind of different connotations and meanings. Some words have kind of become very loaded, like God or Jesus, like different stuff that kind of makes it almost that we are afraid of like kind of connecting with them, because everything in the world is kind of an ego that we kind of have to pass through the gates of the ego to come to the freedom, to come to our being, come to our divine being. And that is kind of, so then here, the focus here in this teaching is to kind of take you through different gates of the ego, as everybody will connect differently with different words. No two people will like look at it and feel it exactly the same point. But gradually, as you kind of go deeper, you will start to kind of connect with these words in a different way. But the foremost intention is to connect with the energy behind it. The teaching is not the words. You might not even connect with the words, but if you are here and if you feel pulled, it's because there's an energy behind it. The teaching is the connection, the openness and the connection, the openness and the payment. When you decide to go deeper from YouTube or Instagram, and you go into the sanctuary, whether it's physical or online, then there's a payment, there's a commitment to go deeper, to test it out. And that's kind of why we use these words, to kind of allow you to kind of test it or taste it a little bit, and to be like, oh, there's something, I'm curious, maybe I'm ready to go deeper. To go deeper is a kind of a diffuse or obtruse thing, which doesn't totally it's hard to understand what it means to go deeper, because everybody can have like an awakening of sense and of any sorts, and have beautiful feelings of love or bliss or peace or all kinds of stuff. But all this is also part of the ego. To kind of get a bigger, kind of holistic and more stable, mature sense, we kind of have to pluck off the ego. And that's kind of what we are here to do, to dare to like look at different emotions and thoughts and sensations and feelings, and uncomfortable sensations like pain or nausea and tiredness and fatigue or sadness and anger, but there has been guides up through life. Oh, something says wrong. I don't know what that means. What? That's weird. Are you guys still hearing me? I guess we it says something is wrong. That don't totally understand what that means. Let's see if it got blocked on the. You still hear me? Okay. Okay. So I mean, no, this suddenly pops up some weird notice. That's kind of like last time. Last time it was blasted open the energy and it froze because there's like energy that is moving through. We moved through some, you know, energy like ice. So suddenly the energy is up. Then here it says something is wrong, but I don't know what that even means. I guess it's still rolling. So yeah, so there's been different teachers at different times that has kind of awakened this body, this kind of being, and kind of because we that has kind of been a mission, that we kind of want to awaken. We are awakened naturally, but we also kind of to harness the body, to harness the power, to kind of harness the peace and the understanding takes kind of guidance, takes an understanding, takes a commitment sometimes to kind of go into those areas. And it was my jacket got washed yesterday. It kind of got baptized. We needed to clean it a little bit, and it's never been cleaned before. So that kind of reminded me of and then we put it in front of the fire in the sanctuary kind of to dry, to kind of really get the fire going. So it kind of reminded me of that the two aspects of the ego, that we kind of two gateways of the ego that humanity has kind of been going through, and that is the Buddha and the Christ. That's why I was calling it that. And the Buddha kind of represents that awakened being coming into awakening to kind of here and now. It's like very here and now, being at peace. And so that is kind of the fire, like the fire of going in. And in the Ease of Life, we talk about that coming into that by daring. You have to dare to come into life. You have to dare to commit. You have to dare to enjoy life, the ease of life. And that's when you can find that flow and that dare to kind of embrace yourself having a body, kind of. So that is kind of part of the teaching. The other part, the Christ aspect, is the salvation, is the surrender, is the ascension upwards. Christ kind of symbolizes the teacher, so to speak, that kind of daring to look and see, oh, that you have to come short. You have come short. You surrender and you do something, but you will you will not be able to do it correctly. So you come short. That is kind of why it can't be totally done. You have to dare to kind of go in. When you go engage like the Buddha or the Ease of Life, you engage with the energy. Then you start moving the fire. Then the Christ represents the sword of truth. That is kind of the center. And when you kind of you jump in, you engage the energy, but then you can't touch the the straight and narrow road. The sword is the straight and narrow road. You can't really do it. But by surrendering and having the teacher kind of looking at it, you will start kind of connecting to it. So that's the connection we're talking about. So you will start to hover around the sword and daring to trust in the teacher, trust in the guidance, and trust in the surrender. Not that you're doing it correctly, but yet you're surrendering and having faith. In that process, you will start to kind of go up the sword, moving around. You will kind of circle and spiraling up the sword. So that is kind of where those two aspects of the body kind of connect. And then Maitreya, or like the divine being, is what we're kind of stepping into, this divine being, our human being, where we can kind of enter into that, the grandness ourselves. Then we see the sword, and then we have to dare to kind of take the sword. We have to dare to wield our power. We have to dare, but we wield the power with peace, with truth, with surrender, with kindness, with gentleness. So that is kind of stepping into your body. Being is to kind of dare to see your power, but then to connect with it from kind of a humble, vulnerable place. So that is kind of where we are at. That is kind of the path. Now, I talk about this path in many ways and at different times. So there is like a way of of understanding it completely, but it is not the understanding, it is that connection. I'm guiding you beyond the ego into that divine being that is naturally there behind. And then from there we can live from enjoyment, from ease, from flow, from happiness, from faith, and from wisdom. To hold the sword, to be able to see that you have power, is to able to see that, to dare to be fearless. You know, there's, I heard somebody was talked about a shooting, and then these police people, they were they were afraid. They didn't dare to engage with the shooter. They had a gun, but they didn't dare to engage. We can get paralyzed by fear. It is because we have, you know, us have a sword, but how to use it, how to dare to kind of overcome our fear, overcome our doubts, overcome our desire, and step into the truth of now, truth of power, truth of peace. That is kind of the path we're on. So sounds. Oh, then the blazing wind comes in. Just you can feel it and do it here. And we might actually gonna do the next part in here too. But for the ones that are just on YouTube or other places, then the next part is gonna be on the sanctuary in the Patreon. So if you want to sign up and check out the rest and go deeper, you are welcome. And if not, let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you next time.